Welcome to the VR Report. My name is David O, and I'm here with the infamous Ben Lang from Road to VR. How's it going, Ben?
It's going well.
Hey, just so you can get our audience up to speed, of course, I follow you religiously, being in virtual reality. Can you please describe what Road to VR is?
Sure. So we are a virtual reality news website. If I want to be proud of what I've done, so I'll say, as far as we're aware, we are the largest independent virtual reality news website in the world right now. And part of why that is because I actually founded the site in 2011, which is kind of before a lot of the activity happened. I started Road to VR when I was in school at Temple University, and I had been doing technology journalism for a long time while I was in school, and I wanted to start something that was my own. I had been doing some editorial and executive editorial positions across other websites, just small tech websites focusing on mobile technology. I was very much up to date with that space, and I said, I want to do something that is mine. And I actually just made a list, like, of 4 random topics. One was like astronomy, one was like maybe I'll learn about Samsung tablets, one was virtual reality, and one was something else. And I could have gone down any one of those routes, but I said virtual reality is the thing that interests me the most on this list. It was actually like on my iPhone. I typed it out one day of things I might do. So I launched Road to VR just as a little side blog, little hobby project, to answer a question for myself, which was 2 questions, I guess you could say, which was, what is the state of the art for VR? What is it right now? And how long until we get to the Matrix, like perfect virtual reality? So I called it Road to VR because it was, plotting a course. Where are we now? How long until we get here? And I get the question a lot, like, oh, when these headsets are launched and everybody, can buy an Oculus Rift, that will be the road, there will be no more road. We're there, right? And I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, but for me, the road is perfect virtual reality, the Matrix, and I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. I'd love to, but I'm trying to answer that question myself, just explore and educate myself about what virtual reality is, and now it's just reached this incredible consumer level, and things are so much more exciting than I could have envisioned in 2011.
Why virtual reality, though? Because you're studying journalism at Temple University. You could have, why out of astrology and why virtual reality? Because that wasn't even part of the vocabulary.
Yeah, so I like to say that it is part luck and part prospecting. So, I mean, I had been writing for other tech websites at this point for 5 years or so. I was actually started in high school. There was a point where I was actually, when I started, I think I was like 16 or so, and I purposely didn't tell anybody how old I was because I didn't want the negative connotation of, oh, this kid's 16, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I kind of created this little fake identity for myself in the early days when I started my tech writing, and I just wrote and never really referenced, I'm a kid in high school and whatever. And so apparently that worked because nobody ever questioned it. So I was an editor on some of these small tech websites, nothing crazy, but I think I was producing good professional work where it didn't matter what my age was. So I had been following this technology space for a long time, actually, even though I'm fairly young, mobile technology in particular. And if anybody who's been watching the VR space closely will know that the reason that VR is possible now is largely the result of how hard the mobile industry has been driven in the last few years. So much of the technology that is useful for VR, high-density screens, mobile processors, really high-performance screens, these things have come down significantly in price, and sensors too, of course, have come down so far in price because of the commodification of smartphones. So I was very involved in that space at the time, and so VR was an interesting topic, just that I'd always thought about. I mean, since I ever learned about it, I was like, the thing for me was, if you can have the perfect VR, what are your limitations? There are none. You could rewrite the laws of physics if you wanted to. Gravity could be different. The speed of light could be different. You could do whatever you wanted. So that idea fascinated me. And that was why it was on that list of things, just the thing I'd thought about. And so that's the kind of the luck part is the timing. And I think the prospecting part was that I had the knowledge of this mobile technology world. I started to see these little pieces come together where people in labs and universities would just piece together a headset and a head tracker. Like, head tracking on a headset was not the norm not many years ago. It was like, okay, we have an HMD, but if you move, it doesn't move the screen with you.
That's right.
Now every single one has it, and that was the result of people saying, okay, what happens if we start putting all these pieces together? So it was like there were all these different pieces of the puzzle that existed, but nobody put the whole puzzle together. And I got lucky in that as I started to research this stuff, the puzzles coming together. We're pretty close to having just really amazing stuff that people can go out and buy.
We're in the advent of the start of a consumer launch, right? And now there's even a competitive landscape with these different platforms. What are some of your high predictions that are going to happen in the next 2, 5, 10 years in virtual reality?
So I like to say that kind of any prediction beyond 5 years it's just not going to be right.
Yeah.
But it's fun to try, right?
Sure.
So right now we're in this space where we're about to see the launch of kind of the biggest products. And I hate to refer to it as such, like the launch of consumer VR, because there's so many other people that do have really cool stuff out or are working on really cool stuff. But I mean, it is a useful timeline marker, right? The biggest headset. So Sony, Oculus, Samsung, and Valve, like the biggest ones, the ones that will probably see the largest initial spread. So credit where it's due for all the other people, of course. But this time is very important because it's the first time where it's going to be very easy for a consumer to get like probably the best consumer, to get the best consumer virtual reality experience that they've ever been able to buy. That's about to happen in the next year. For me personally, I just always feel like if the technology is good enough, people will make it fit into their lives. I mean, that's what we saw. That's what I did with the UMPC back in the day.
Sure.
It was...
That's what people did with televisions back in the 50s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a huge box, and you had a little screen, but they said this is worth dedicating a room in our house to, right? I think that actually is a perfect parallel to what we're going to see with virtual reality and room scale experiences. Because if it is good enough, I mean, if you put someone in the Vive, in Valve's headset, and said, would you trade this for your TV? I mean, I would say yes. Like, yeah, I'll throw my TV out. I'll unsubscribe from cable to have a virtual, like basically a holodeck in my house and give the TV space up to the thing. I think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be good enough that people are going to say, we want this in our house. Maybe not 2 years out, maybe closer to 5 years. But you know, the thing is, there's this really interesting continuum all the way from cardboard to this 15-foot space. So it'll be really interesting for me to see where people kind of cluster to into these different segments that make sense. Because something that a developer makes for cardboard is not necessarily going to be a great Vive experience and vice versa. But there are going to be experiences that work really well in cardboard and people who want it. And there are going to be those on the opposite end as well.
That's right. Ben, thank you so much for participating in the VR report. And we're looking forward to figuring out if some of your predictions actually partake into the future.
Me too.
Thank you.